guest is Lowell Lytle.
It took place on April 9th. 1,500 souls went into eternity that quick. All had plans to get to New York and start a new life.
Clear and strong, stand for, claim your heritage of truth.
Welcome to Heritage of Truth. Today our guest is Lowell Lytle. Is that how you pronounce it?
That's it, yes.
Okay. And you have the most wonderful speaking voice. Oh my.
Well, I've been blessed, I guess. I used to sing in a Southern Gospel quartet.
Okay, I
Tenor
guess.
boy.
Yeah, I was
No,
going
you
to say
should
you're
have
the
heard
tenor.
the bass. He was amazing.
Well, you have a book out called Diving into the Deep, a gripping true story of adventure, risk, and spiritual quest. Now, you have done some really interesting things in your life. You've built, was it 2 ships you built?
Yes, wooden ships.
Yeah.
The last one was a full-size galleon, 17th century Dutch frigate. And I built the Santa Maria 3/4 scale. And we sailed the Tall Ships Parade in New York Harbor in 1976 and in 86 for the Statue of Liberty celebration.
Wow.
Yeah, I actually had Christopher Columbus the 18th on board.
You're kidding. Is there a real?
Yes. And he had all the paperwork to show it. I flew him over from Madrid, and we went up the Hudson River. When we came down under the Washington Bridge, the Spanish boat, the large training vessel, was there, and they knew he was going to be on board. And they all came out on the side, and their band played the Spanish national anthem, and he stood on the poop deck and saluted them in his dress whites, and it was a touching, amazing event.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, it didn't start out that way. Oh my goodness, and you'll hear about it in here, the stories of what happened when we got off of Cape Hatteras and northeasterly blew up. And that's the graveyard of ships. And oh my goodness, the ship started taking on water, and the bilge pumps burned out, and it was just amazing. And we figured we're all going to die. And I said, well, take the hatch off and give everybody a pail. I'm not going to go down without a fight. And I got down in the bilge and tried to get the sawdust away from the bilge pumps and all that stuff. And I got cramps in my leg, and it's only 3 foot deep, 3 feet high. And then the ocean is now inside the ship, slamming me against it. It was a terrifying event. But through it all, this book is not just about the different adventures that I've had. Its purpose is to, first of all, reach people for Christ. And for Christians, if they'll put their faith and trust in God completely. You know, Romans 14:23 said, anything apart from faith is sin. That's pretty heavy.
Yes.
He honored his faith so much, he made the whole plan of salvation revolve around it. So when we trust him by faith, magic happens. And I was in a position where we were building 2 Christian drive-in theaters. Who ever heard of that? Way back in the early 50s, Christian drive-in theaters got to St. Petersburg. They thought, who are these 2 guys down here building a Christian drive-in theater? There were so many situations in that where you just had to trust God by faith, because we just didn't have the money to do it. But okay, God, you want to do it, we feel you want us to, so we take that step of faith, and that's when magic happened. And when you get to the chapter that reads, roll out the barrel, that will freak you out. Your first reaction will be, that can't be. Yes, it can. Nah, not possible. Yes, it is. True story. Roll out the barrel. With God, all things are possible. So when you see things, when you've had them in your life that just give you the support for the faith that you know God wants you to have, when you get problems later on in life, you're able to look back and say, oh, I've been there before. I know what he's going to, I don't know the end result, but I know it's going to be good.
Well, you lost both of your ships that you built.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, one was in a fire, right?
One was in the fire, one was in a hurricane.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that was financially kind of
Oh,
devastating.
yes, that part was devastating, and, you know, there's certain things that seem to be devastating we don't understand. My wife bought fire insurance, or for life insurance on her, $100,000, paid for it for years and years and years. 2 years before she passed away, she quit paying in. And when she passed away, there was no, and I'm thinking, you know, been in the ministry all my life, and we just don't set aside for, I don't have any stocks in anything, you know. And you just trust the Lord. And I wonder, well, why? Why did she do? Because she was really precise. She could make sure everything's done. It's just she's an accountant. She would stay for 2 or 3 days just to find a penny to make sure it was done right. But she let that go. And all I could think is, God knows, maybe he wants me to trust him and not have the money. I'm not going to argue with him. I'm just going to accept it because I've got so many stepping stones back there where he's blessed me. So I don't have problems. I have circumstances and I can get over those. But God, and I don't want to handle problems. I'm lousy at it. But God does. He loves it.
And he does a good job.
Oh, that's his job, and I don't want to take his job away from him. So I leave my problems at the cross, and I don't pick them up. That's what we used to do, you know. And a lot of people do. They just pick it up again and carry it with them and say, oh, what am I going to do? That's not abundant life. And this book is about faith rest. When you trust him, you can relax and enjoy abundant life in the midst of everything, because God says, in everything give thanks, not some things. Everything
That's
give
right.
thanks.
Well, now I'm sure the audience is curious about the costume or the uniform
Yes.
you're wearing. Can you tell us?
Why in the world am I dressed like this, and who am I?
Yeah, there you
Well,
go.
yeah, it was about 17 years ago. I was sitting home, minding my own business, and I had seen the movie of the Titanic a couple of times. I thought, well, that was an amazing job he did. Wow. Then I received a phone call from Orlando. They were building an exhibit on the International Drive about the Titanic, and one of the designers called me and said, we've just been looking for a captain over here. We've gone through 350 actors. Can't find one in Orlando. He said, I told these men, I know the one that can play that part. He's my next door neighbor. Lived right across the street from me in Pinellas Park, Florida. Used to be a lead singer in one of my rock and roll bands. And I went over on a hoop just to see what it's all about. And the exhibit is great. I mean, they had the grand staircase, and it was amazing. I went through it about an hour later, went into the souvenir shop, and I saw the front page of the New York Times, 1912, and a picture of Captain E.J. Smith was looking right at me. And my first impression was, my neighbor has taken my picture and pasted it on the front page of the New York Times. I thought, he shouldn't do that. That's wrong. And it really surprised me. And then I heard 2 years after I'd been working that they were going to dive on the Titanic and pick up artifacts. That's it. That was the picture.
That's the picture.
And I called them and asked if I could go on the dive. And they said no. I waited a couple of weeks. I called them again. They said no, that's for archaeologists and important people. Well, my wife thought I was important, but that didn't help. I waited 2 more weeks. See, the theory is this: never give up. Just never give up. And I called him again. I said, I'm the captain of the Titanic. I'm in front of the camera. I'm in everyone's home. I believe if the media could say this man's been down to see the ship, more people would be interested in what I have to say about it. You'll get more people there and you'll make more money. It got quiet on the other end of the phone, and the man said, I think you're right. Come along. Then I wasn't sure I wanted to go. Now, I'm in that Russian submarine going 2.5 miles down on the ocean floor. Now, if that doesn't frighten you, Jean, I don't know what would. It sure
It
did
scared me to
me.
death.
And then when I got out there, they looked at me and they said, well, you're too big. You'll never make it in there. I said, I'll make it in there. Well, we don't have a fire suit big enough for you. Fire suit? What's this about a fire? Well, you'll be breathing 100% oxygen. It could flash to a fire. Well, if that's the case, I'll be burnt to a crisp in 10 seconds. What good's the suit? They said, your name's going to be written on it. It's for identification. Identification? I'm that tall guy down there. You need this. When I finally got in that thing, it was a sphere. It was 6.5 foot in diameter. Same one that James Cameron was in to make the movie. There's 2 other men with you. No place to sit. I'm in a fetal position on my elbow for 12 hours.
Oh,
They tightened up the hatch, and when they did that, I knew I couldn't change my mind. This is it. I'm not going to see a movie. I'm going to see the Titanic. And for the next 2.5 hours, I'm alone with my own thoughts in total darkness. When we arrived, they turned on the lights, and I was right over the bow of the Titanic. The same spot where Leonardo DiCaprio in the movie held out his arms and said, I'm the king of the world. Went right over that spot. I said, take me to the captain's cabin. I heard the side was already gone. They took me there. I was 5 feet from his bathtub for 10 minutes while they were changing film. I found many items of worth. But after an hour and a half, you see all that debris scattered on the ocean floor. It just hit me like a ton of bricks what took place that April night. 1,500 souls went into eternity that quick. All had plans to get to New York and start a new life. It never happened. Life is short. You may not even make it to your own bedroom tonight. Make sure you know where you're going. And remember this, eternity is a long time to be wrong. Get it right.
and how did they get it right?
The way you get it right is to put your faith and trust in Jesus Christ. There's an interesting story. My wife gave me a book entitled The Titanic's Last Hero when I first took the job 17 years ago. The Titanic's Last Hero was the only book that was on the shelf, the only one about the Titanic. And I looked at that and I thought, oh my goodness, this is a ministry. I'm just going to quote that book. It's about a second-class passenger, a Baptist minister from Glasgow, Scotland, on his way to Chicago to preach at Moody Church. When the Titanic started to go down, Reverend Harper ran around the deck shouting, "Women and children and unsaved people, get aboard the lifeboats." You just can't keep these Baptists quiet, you know. He even took off his life vest, gave it to a man that was not a believer in Christ. Thought that'll give him time to get his soul ready for eternity. It's in the water now, 28 degrees. Salt water takes longer to freeze. It feels like 1,000 knives stabbing you. Horrible, cold. Can't imagine dying in that kind of condition. He's in the water now, no life vest. A man drifted by on a piece of wood. Reverend Harper shouted to the man, "Are you saved?" The man said, "No." Reverend Harper shouted, "Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ and thou shalt be saved." The man drifted off into the dark and later the current drew him back. Reverend Harper again shouted to the man, "Are you saved yet?" The man said, "I can't honestly say that I am." Reverend Harper's last words were, "Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ and thou shalt be saved." And with that, the Reverend slipped under the water and into the arms of Jesus. There were 12 people pulled from the water that night. 6 of them lived. That man was one of them. And the story was told a few weeks later in Hamilton, Ontario, by that same man who said, "I listened to Reverend Harper's last message and became a believer in Jesus Christ with 2 miles of water beneath me." Titanic's last hero, Reverend John Harper. And you know, Jeanne, they let me tell that story every place I go for 17 years. I've been in almost every city in the United States, every province in Canada. I've been in, this picture was taken in Singapore
Oh, really?
at a Titanic exhibit. I spoke for 2 weeks in Shanghai, China. I thought they were going to throw me in prison. But it would have looked bad to have the captain behind bars. And they interpreted it, you know. So that message has gone out for 17 years everywhere I've been going. And no one's ever said, don't tell that story. Don't tell that story.
So is the Titanic exhibit gone now?
No, the Titanic, there are two that are just magnificent in this country. One is in Branson, Missouri.
Okay.
They have rebuilt the Titanic half scale.
Oh,
You're driving down the road and here's a ship crossing the road with the water splashing on the bow. And there it is, it's half scale, but on the inside, it's full scale. The grand staircase and the first and second or third class rooms, and the same in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. I was in Branson, Missouri for 5 years, and now for the last 6 years, I've been in Pigeon Forge, and I will start day after tomorrow in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, be there for the month of July until the middle of August.
okay.
Then I go back when the leaves turn, and then between Christmas and New Year's, I'll be there. And then again in the middle of March to middle of April for spring break. They save the position for me. They don't have another captain while I'm gone. I think that's very noble of them.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to quote you from your book. There were a couple of quotes that especially I really liked. One says, I want you to experience what I have come to know as faith rest, the ability to live your most abundant life, not by tremendous effort, but by tenacious trust.
Yes,
That was a wonderful thing. Even the way you worded it was so good. And that tenacious trust is in the Lord. Right?
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And when you do that, if you just let go and let him do his thing, it's really beautiful. You don't have to sweat it. I just feel so sorry for people. They're just live in the doldrums and kicking their chin. Oh my goodness, what happened here? No, that's not Christianity to its fullest. And I'm certain I've not arrived totally in everything, and there's times I question things, but then again, I look back at those stepping stones. I look back at the barrel story, and it just, oh my goodness, I'll say, yes, I know God's on the throne. I got to tell you this. About, it was 12:30 one day after New Year's. I was sleeping, and a man called me on the phone. He said, woke me up. He said, are you the captain of the Titanic? I said, yes. Wow. I never thought you'd answer the phone. I just thought I'd get a machine. Wow. He said, I'm from Pennsylvania. I came over there to the Pigeon Forge, and I heard you talking about that reverend up there and that story. And I'm not a spiritual person at all, but that story got to me. And I went down and I bought your book. And I'm sorry to call you in the middle of the night like this. I'm a little drunk right now. I've been drinking some wine. In fact, I don't know why I'm even calling you. I said, I do. You just read my book. The last chapter talks about accepting Christ. Would you like to receive him right now? Yes, sir, I would. So I prayed the sinner's prayer with him. 12 hours later, he called me, 12:30 in the afternoon. Captain, I want to apologize for calling you last night. I was drunk. But I'm not drunk now. And I want to make sure I got that prayer right. Would you pray that prayer one more time with me?
Oh, good. Well, I want to end with one of your quotes. You said, my hope is that you will find a way to allow God to be your captain, and that you would learn to follow his orders without hesitation, as if your very life depended on it.
It does.
It does. Well, where can people find you online?
encouragebooks.com
Okay.
would be one place. Or you can look me up on my webpage. It's titanictalk.com.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being our guest,
You're
Captain.
welcome. Thank you, Jeanne.
Share the